Good morning, friends. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. I am calling today Whirly Wednesday, and I would like to show you how to make a card with Stampin' Up's Give It a Whirl dies. And I'll tell you all about these fabulous dies in a minute. But this is the card we're going to make today. And basically, I've got a saying down here from Pretty Pumpkins. If friends were pumpkins, I'd pick you. And in that set, we have a little pumpkin. We have a medium pumpkin. And we have a large pumpkin. So I just thought it went really cool with the saying that, boy, we could pick any friend, but we need to be careful those friends we pick. And boy, do I have some special friends. So this is the card we're going to make with Give It a Whirl dies. Good morning. It's Karen Decker here from Castle Rock, Colorado, and a wonderful morning. The colors in Colorado have been more intense than I remember for years. So, Lucille, we'll come out your way someday and see the East Coast colors. I heard that they're always gorgeous. So, this year, even my lilacs didn't freeze and turn brown and just drop off. They're beautiful in yellow, which is very, very seldom happens. But anyway, welcome to Colorado, welcome to Castle Rock, and welcome to the Stampilosopher. I've been a demonstrator for about 12, 13 years. I have to keep calculating that. And I love Stampin' Up. I love all the way that their products match, that we can get papers that match, inks that match, ribbons that match, markers that match, alcohol blends, and we can have just so much fun with them. So if you don't have a demonstrator, I'd love to help you with your creative world. And as our little Sal says, to bring a pinch of creativity to spice up your crafting world. Yes, I talk to salt shakers. So visit me on my blog, Stampilosopher.com. It sounds hard to spell, but it's really just a philosopher who stamps, stamp a losopher. And then that abbreviation is SAL, and I found out that means salt in Spanish. So I went with a salt shaker for my little icon, and he and I have fun on the blog talking to each other. So join me on Stampilosopher.com. I also have a YouTube where you can go and follow me there. Follow my blog by putting in your email. Follow the YouTube. Or just come on Facebook when I'm live and visit me here. I'll turn on comments so I can see if you're there and talk to me a little. I'd love it. So here's my little icon, Sal. I love him, and we have a lot of fun. The hostess code from now through the 4th Tuesday in November is ZRTHHK33. And a hostess code is something that you use when you go online to place an order that is under $150. Because at $150, a hostess would get free products. And sometimes we just need a $30, $40, $50 order, and we don't need to have that $150. So we have a hostess code, and then you put in that hostess code, and all those hostess codes accumulate, and our hostess for club that month, which is Joe this month, will be able to perhaps get up to not only the $150, which club members will each commit to buying, and then they will push her to the $150, but then with all the other orders, we typically get a half price item. So kind of fun there with joining a club. So let me know if you're interested in clubs. Stamp-A-Stacks. Christmas is coming up, and we'll be doing Christmas cards. So let me know this is my blog, www.stampilosopher.com, and then stampilosopher@gmail.com is my email. Or you can text me at 303-815-0838, and I'll be glad to help you with whatever your needs are. I have a group of Karen crafters, my team under me, and we have a Facebook page. So if you'd like to be a part of the Karen crafters, that would be fun too. So let's get started with this card because it's a little more intense. So I'm thinking We'll be here a little while. Grab a cup of coffee. But the main thing we want to show you is how to make this whirly the easiest way possible that makes it work every time. And I looked at several. My goodness, some people have made it so hard. And some of these YouTubes, and you got to do this and you got to do that. And really, it's quite simple. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to start with a base of Cajun Craze. Our standard 8.5 by 5.5, and then we've scored that at 4.25. Okay, that's our standard base. I call this the vertical way. I call this the horizontal way, because your card can open horizontally or your card can open vertically. Today we're going to do the vertical. So we've got our card. The next thing we want to look at is the designer series paper. And this is so beautiful. Don't you love all those colors? That's exactly what we see right now. And that paper, I'm going to show you, probably the fastest way would be to show you in the catalog, because it'll have all the difference. So this paper is called The Beauty of the Earth. And it's this one right here, which has just the branches with all the different color leaves. I've also taken a strip off of this piece, and I've cut three little, let me show you here, 3 little leaves with a set of dies. And hopefully, if you can go to the clearance rack, they actually have a punch with this in it. So I didn't feel bad using this, because I know you can get a punch right now in the clearance rack that has an acorn and this leaf, and I think a maple leaf too. So a fun set of punches to have. I didn't have the punch, but I had this from a retired set, which was the square pillow box thinlits dies from the past. We had a set of dies that made a beautiful pillow box, and then we had little Christmas trees and little pumpkins and a snowflake, and it had this really, really cool set of leaves, tiny leaves. I wanted tiny leaves for this, because when I looked at this, I said, well, let's see, what can I do to bling this up? And I thought, well, you know, I can use yellow bling, I can use orange, I can use, and then I thought, oh, but if I use little tiny leaves, it fits better with the card. So that's where I got the leaves. I punched them out of that paper, the same paper that's in this pack. So here's our little leaves. And since when I punched it out, there was a little bit of white, and I've got so much white on the front that I thought, I'm just going to color that with some light mango melody and have our little leaves ready to mount for our embellishment. How's that for taking the last thing first? Yeah, I do that a lot. I read a magazine from the back first. I don't know why, but I'll open it up at the back, which is good with Stampin' Up. You open it at the back and you get to see all the Hostess products and the neat tools that we have. And then you get into the stamps up front. Anyway, so in our dies, with the Give It a Whirl dies, we've got to show you this set. And again, the best way to show that set is, I'm going to show you where it's at in the catalog. It's on page 163. Is that amazing set of dies here? We've got the large one, which gives you the cutout for the round thing in the back. You have 2 sets of stars the same size. And then let me show you some of these others. I cut them out for you because I really think you're going to want this set in your collection. Because you can stamp, this is just copy paper, and I cut these out as kind of a template. I'll keep it with my dies. So I'm going, you know, I wonder if that greeting will fit. And I can just go right here and see. And then I can see this. Oh yeah, we can make those pumpkins fit. You've got a greeting here, a little label. You've got a circle, and then with the circle, you have an outline, and I don't know if you can see it. The outline has stitched on it. So you've got the stitched that you can put over the circle on the outside if you chose to do a circle. When you punch out the hearts, when you die cut the hearts, these little hearts also have stitching on them. And then if you see here where you would be punching out for your front, for your whirly, this has stitching on it. Oh, what a fabulous set. These little stars when you punch them out. When you die cut them out, you've got a teeny tiny and a middle and a bigger one. And then you've got 3 different sizes of clouds with marvelous stitching on them. I hope the stitching doesn't go away. I know they typically, you have a thing, they have it for a while and then it goes away. Then there's a little set of circles in the die that you could use like even with fish, where here's your circles. Or think of our punch art. This is about a 1/8 and a 1, this is a 1/4 and this is between 1/8 and a 1/4. So you have little bitty circles that work perfect for eyes and any of the punch art you might be doing. But then look at this. They have 3 different dies so that you can punch an arrow into your paper so that you're just seeing the lines and the arrow. You can actually punch the arrows out like this. This punched out from there. Or you can punch 2 little arrows on this side. So an amazing set of dies. I highly recommend this set, and there's so many ways you can play with it, and if you go online you'll see they've done whirlies with all kinds of animals and baby cards and just a lot of fun things. Now I used, instead of those arrows, I just used my black journaler, and I did a black one here so it would be stand out a little more. And then every time that black is lined up over here, then my greenery is lined up top there. So I just used that because I didn't want to be punching, not knowing exactly where my arrows were going to go. So I just drew that with a black journaler. And we did a little, I'll show you that in a minute. We did a little other, if the image didn't exactly meet. So if the image for this pumpkin didn't exactly meet up with the reds and the old olive, I'd just take my black journal in there and just have a little artistic creativity and make those a little longer. So we may have to do that, depends on how I stamp today. So we'll see how that goes. So I have taken this and the large die from that set, and what is special about this is, oh dear, with that you really can't tell either way, is it gives you that stitching on the outside. And not only that, it gives you, let's see, I'll show you, it gives you a little hole right there. I thought you could see the pencil. You really can't, can you? But anyway, you've got your little hole right there, and that is what is going to give you the ability to line up your dies, whether you want, like I had used this, which also has the circle. So I would line that circle up with that, decide which way I want to lean it, and then I know where I need to cut. And then your other dies have the same thing. So if you wanted to use circles, the circle has the little hole in it. The heart, there's a heart. The heart has a little hole in it. If I could, and the rectangle. So as you see here, you've got your things to line up here. So Stampin' Up! Has made it very easy for us to create this whirly. Whirly. It's Whirly Wednesday. Okay, Now, some people have had a problem. They don't like when you use, when they use this and cut it out, say on your Whisper White, which is a little lighter, or the DSP, they don't like the fact that it has a very, very slight image of that middle line. So see, we have a middle line here. So as you run it through the Stampin' Cut machine, you get that little bitty image there. Didn't bother me, and with this designer paper, I really thought there was enough going on that you would never even notice that. If it bothers you, take a piece of cardstock. After you've cut this out, take a piece of cardstock and run this back through your Stampin' Cut machine. We do that many times when we have some of our little dies where they put the holes in so you can poke them out. We'll run those back through to flatten those holes out so that we can have, we don't have that image with a little dot on it. So just run that back through, and I think you'll be pleased with how it comes out. So we have got Cajun Craze. Then we've got a piece of our designer series paper, which we've cut out with this. For the inside, since I'm loving the stitching, I just took the stitching from the stitched rectangle dies so that I could make an inside. So we've got our inside there. We've got another stitched rectangle die, and I'll have all these sizes on my blog when I'm done here so you can see. It's a stitched rectangle. I think it was the third one back. Let's check in case you don't get a chance to get to the blog. Oh, sorry about that arm in there. So this that I used for the inside is your largest stitched rectangle. This that I used for the delivering cheer, the little girl with her coat, is, now if this were in here, well, let's go from the inside. 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth one from the inside of your stitched rectangle dies. And since that is done, let's just go ahead and put that up. Okay, so then you're going to cut out one of your circles. And actually, it's kind of a nice idea to cut out a template also of your circle, because when you're putting your dimensionals on the top, you don't want to do like I did on my first one. And I just said, oh, let's get our dimensionals on there. And I just want to strip here, strip here. Well, then it wouldn't turn because my dimensional was right there. So it's kind of nice to have one that you can use when you've mounted your other one to make sure that you put those dimensionals just on those edges. Okay, so 2 of those. We've got one for our little girl. We've cut this out. And then I have stamped from Pretty Pumpkins. If Friends for Pumpkins, I'd Pick You. So Thankful for You is what I use for the inside. And then I use this stamp in Old Olive to stamp on the inside. Because when I stamped it in black and then colored it, I found it very hard to get green on the edge of the vine. So I decided it was much easier to just stamp it in Old Olive and not try to color that at all, just to color in the leaf there and then the blossom I did in the Melon Mambo. So there's your middle. We've got So Thankful for You. And that, let's do that right quick, working from the backwards forwards again. So our inside here, So Thankful for You. And I used, If Friends Were Pumpkins, I'd Pick You. I've already stamped that. And I did it in Early Espresso. But on the orange, It didn't look much different than the Memento. I think it might have been just a little more muted than if we'd done it in the... Wow, I think I have a heavy hand today. We're going to start that again because I looked and I had so many shadows there. That would have been a disaster. So let's not have a heavy hand. Remember, it's tap, 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 and then stamp. So we don't need to be so heavy. Just tap, tap, tap. And I do like to double check, because if you see that you've got ink on those edges, it's a good thing to take your finger and run around it so you don't get that shadow. If you get a shadow, we call it a design opportunity, and we find a butterfly, or in this case, maybe a pumpkin, and a little bitty one, and we just put it there. So this is Early Espresso, and it's from Pretty Pumpkins. So then I'm going to take the Old Olive. Do you have people asking you, how long does it take you to make a card? And it's like, well, it's not the making the card. It's designing the card and deciding what you want. And that, I think, is more time consuming actually than making the card. Sorry, I thought I had all those mounted up here. So we're going to take the little one here. Checking for, see, right there could have been a shadow. We don't want a shadow. Check for a shadow. And this is in the Old Olive. Voila. And see, then that's nice and green. And I don't think we need to worry about coloring it like I did when I stamped it in the Memento Black, and then I wanted to color it. So now we're going to take our light Old Olive and color that in. And let me see if anybody's with us this morning. Not yet. But I'll leave that on. So leave me a comment if you do come on. We had our club this week. We didn't make this, or last week, I guess. And if you have a chance to go to my YouTube channel or to Facebook or the blog, I guess you can go any of those places. We used the Merriest Moments dies and stamp set and just made some beautiful Christmas cards. And I had made several others that I had seen examples on Pinterest. I'm going, oh, you've got to see the beauty of this set. So if you get a chance and you're thinking about Christmas cards, let me tell you, I think that is probably the one set that if you wanted to make all your Christmas cards and just get one new set this year, I would recommend that one. So I'm getting a little shadowing here by going over some of it twice. Instead of getting, my typical is take dark and light and then do them. Then I'm going to take Light Mango Melody and do the blossom here. I assume that pumpkins are like cucumbers. I've never raised a pumpkin. And they have a yellow blossom. Don't know. Let me know if you know. Okay, so our middle's done. Let me show you. I do store my, this is a peanut can actually. Then you decorate the outside of it and it works perfect for storing our, not storing them, but for when you're using them and you want several out or you want them out for club, it works great. I had thought at one time, oh, I've got to reorder those. I've run out of my, the ink, in the marker, and one of my friends said, well, Karen, just store it with that side down for a while, and chances are your ink will come back to it. And sure enough, it did. So I didn't need to order. I thought I was out. So if you ever think you're out of your ink, stand it up with, I almost always use the narrow end. Our markers have this to show the narrow end, this to show the thicker end. So we've got a thick end and then your narrow end. I much prefer the narrow end. And I find that my thick end, I wind up shredding it for whatever reason. So does it feel good to have something done when you work backwards? Maybe that's why I do it. For the feeling of getting that done. And sure enough, see, I've stamped my From My Heart to Yours, Stampin' Up. I had stamped that earlier when I did all the others. We have a club. Our club decides who's going to swap and who's not. So it's wonderful to get these kind of swap cards in the mail. Okay, so our inside done. Our back is done. So now we can work on this front. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring in our Stamparatus. The best tool since the Stamp-A-Ma-Jig. Because I like things kind of scientific, I guess you'd call it. Where I know where to put it. I know where it needs to go. And let's get that back up here. So on the Stamparatus, what I've done is I have mounted the stamp from Delivering Cheer. This is the coat. I call it the coat with the rain boots. And the most fun I had, I think, let me get this right. Do you see these little leggings? And because this is a photopolymer stamp, you can take those leggings and stamp them right over the legs. Cutest thing ever, and then do different colors. Loved it. So then I looked and said, okay, I want my pumpkins to be held by this little girl. And I thought, don't want a Christmas tree. This is more your Christmas tree. Definitely not with the packages, but it would be more like this, your brown paper wrapped around a bouquet of greenery of types. So I thought, oh, a pumpkin in there would be perfect. So that's why I chose that, but that's a fabulous set to have. And you can imagine how many things you can do with it. I've seen people decorate the Christmas tree. I've seen them add flowers to the bouquet. And of course, color up the packages amazingly. So pretty fun. And then one more thing I should show you. Look at this base. So with my card, you've got the little girl standing there. And do you see how I've stamped twice, once on this side and once on that side with that base. And it just adds a really nice embellishment, I guess you'd call it. Artistic. A little bit of art there at the bottom. And then I think I colored it with light soft suede. So that was fun. A nice fun stamp, and I can imagine using that many times. I'll just create my own, and I'll get a gray, and I'll just create my own underneath the different images. But it'll be nice to have a stamped one that's scientific. You know exactly how it's going to look. Artists probably wouldn't like that. They prefer it to just be. So anyway, we have got our little girl stamped here. We've got our little girl mounted here. And our Stamparatus comes with two different. So the other plate, two different plates it comes with. So we're going to stamp once with this. Then we're going to bring this one down and stamp with this one, because this has to go exactly on top of her coat. So you really can't stamp it very well together if you want just that little tiny bit of overlap that Karen wanted. Okay, so let's take our what did we say? It was a fourth from the middle. And you can see what I've done with my Stamparatus is I have marked very clearly, not very neatly maybe, but very clearly exactly where I want my rectangle to start. So the rectangle goes here. And you definitely want to get all your magnets there, because if it doesn't stamp well, you want to be able to get that image well, stamped well. And that'll keep it in place so that I can stamp it once, twice, 3 times. And I need to be careful. I was a little heavy-handed with the ink. And one of the things I like to do, I found that if I put one of the stamp sets underneath the plate where I'm stamping, then when I add my ink, I have less of a tendency to get the ink over on the edge, and you don't want that. You want to make sure there's no ink outside of your stamps. And so I do see there's just a little there. And this is a chamois. I take a chamois and I cut it into fourths so that I have some that I can just use for those little edges. And I think we want just a little more there. But you don't want your ink out on the side, because as you come forward, if you get ink on your magnets, then you can wind up getting ink on the white part of your card when you're taking it off. So be a little careful there. And I find putting a stamp set underneath helps that. Now, if we had a Chucky, somebody made a Chucky out of the top of a Yankee candle lid so that you just get a nice rub over the top of your stamp. Ooh, nice. I think it came out well. But I want her boots to be a little extra dark. So I'm going to get a little more black. I mean, don't you think rain boots should be black? Actually, it'd be kind of fun to put our crystal effects on it and make them look all shiny. Well, I got one side shiny, or one side looking nice and dark. Let's get the other side dark. But you see how with your Stamparatus, it's just amazing that you can stamp until you're pleased with your image. And you do want to keep cleaning those up so that you don't wind up getting it on your fingers like that. And then from your fingers to your beautiful artwork. Okay, so now let's do the top. I have my computer sitting underneath this one, so it's keeping it up nice and straight for me. Now I found with this one, I have to be a little more careful with the inside. It's like the ink really wants to get on the outside, but not as much on the inside. So I don't know if that means it's not exactly level. It should be. Don't know. But I just do a little extra there. Then again, I'm going to wipe off any extra ink. Bring this over. And because I'd lined this up to make 7 other of these, I don't have to line it up for this one. It was already lined up where that would go directly over the coat. Oh, and see, that's not... And it's interesting, you still see the ink on there. And I think part of that is because it gets too close to the... No, that came out nicely. It just had the ink still left on the photopolymer stamp. So you can kind of look at it and see that. And then the inside doesn't have quite as much as I'd like, but we're going to cut that inside out. So that's not going to matter. So let's put that back. Clean it up right quick. Now this part is done for our little girl, except we're going to cut that out with our whirly dies. Whoops, we're going to come back then. We're through with this, but we're going to cut it out with the whirly dies, and then we're going to mask. We're going to stamp pumpkins. We're going to mask the pumpkins, and then we're going to stamp that over it. So let's put that away for just a moment. And let's get our circle was cut out. I guess let's just do that next. So now when you cut the circle out, you can see those little tiny lines from the metal edges, and you like that because that's going to help you to figure out where you want these to go. So now what we're going to do, and you see I've already made a template here, and I made marks with a pencil of where I want this to go. So that it goes right underneath our little girl who we're going to cut out, and then we're going to have the whirly. So we're going to put this on here. Something's not working. It's a circle, so you do want to look at the other side too. I had to remember that with, oh, I know what I'm doing wrong. I'm missing something. What I'm missing is I have taken a piece of copy paper and I've cut out the shape that I want. Remember, we had lots. We could have had a heart. We could have had a rectangle. We could have had a circle. I chose this one. I just really liked it because it was bigger. And because it matches those lines so nicely that it gives me exactly where I need to go for stamping my pumpkins. So what I'm going to do is put that and get a little... Oh, I wanted to show you. I found some tape. I found tape at Amazon called highlighter tape. I had ordered the purple tape before from Amazon that I've used to hold my dies in place, and they were out of it. It was sold out, so I tried this one. I love it. I love the fact that it's in this that I tear off nicely, and I love the fact that it is just a little lighter than the purple. The other purple crafters tape I found was just, sometimes our designer series paper would have a tendency to tear when it pulled up with the purple. Okay, so we've got our template, and I looked at where to line this up on the circle. Now I look at where to line the circle up. Whoops, we need that tape on the other side. We're just going to turn the circle for right now. So once again, I'm lining up. I wish you could see it. You probably can't. Now, some people they would take this and you could take a pencil and you could copy, or you could draw around this so that you know exactly where that needs to go. But then you have to be sure and go back and erase that. So I thought if I can do this without having to go back and erase, I'd sure like it. That's one less step. And I thought that you could see it pretty well. Okay. Okay, so see, this is where that hole would be. This guy's lined up here and here. Looks to be straight. So then we're going to put these on. And now I hate to show you this. You do not have to do this. But I took those 3 pumpkins from Pretty Pumpkins and I cut them apart because I wanted 3 separate ones for the Whirly. So this is what the stamp looked like. And now I've cut them. But I've done this before. And I have found that I will be able to now store these and put them back, the 3 of them together, and it'll work just fine. So I wasn't too afraid of it because I've done it before. But I know it sounds a little scary to those of you who've never felt that you should take your pumpkins apart. So I'm going to take the little one. I'm going to step in on this circle. Then I want to take my black journaler pen, your black marker, whatever, but because I didn't cut this edge, I left that edge on the other one, so that comes there, but our greenery's going to fill in all around it. So then we're going to take this and turn it and look with all these lights for the live. Man, I can really see well. I should have done that when I was doing all my swaps because you can see it so well. That's nice. But I want to make sure, you know me, double check and then triple check. I was an accountant, so it was always foot, cross foot, and then do a reasonableness check. Does it look reasonable? Because sometimes it'll foot and cross foot, but it's not reasonable. Because it has an extra 0 in it or something. Okay, so once again, we line up our circle with where we marked where we wanted it. And make sure it looks good on the other side. Put on these. I'll hurry a little here for you. And now we're going to take our big pumpkin. Head out of the thing, Karen. I'd like to get it up a little high because I like those little vines that come off of it. A little harder to color, but see, we didn't get the vine. And again, I'm going a little heavy on those, on the ink there. I don't like going that heavy. Must be leaning that way a little. So then we're going to turn it one more time to do the medium-sized pumpkin. Let's go to this side. And we're going to have the greenery around it, so it's not, doesn't have to be super technically in the middle, but I just prefer, oh, let's put these on in case I don't get a good image. I just used my finger there and tapped off that looked a little too black. Voila. Of course, you at home are seeing all the stamping from the big pumpkin. Okay, so now we have our circles. Stamped for that. Now what we're going to do, and let me show you another product I get off Amazon, is Masking Magic by Gina K Designs. And with this, basically you have sheets, huge sheets, of course mine are about gone, of, wow, I guess I save even the little bitsy bits. But basically it's a full sheet of double back tape, double back like sticky notes. So typically when I'm masking, I use a sticky note, I stamp on it, and then I peel it off. So this time with her Masking Magic, basically I have stamped all of our pumpkins. And now I'm going to mask that up. And the thing is, when you're using masks, remember, cut deep. It sounds contrary to what we tell you when you cut something out to put on a card. We tell you leave a little white on the outside to blend in with the white of your background, because if you try to cut right on the black line, you always wind up, it's not going to be very perfectly straight. So we say, well, just leave that little bit of white. Nobody will notice if that's not perfectly straight, but not when you're masking. So that's if you're cutting an image out to glue it onto. Whoops, there he goes. Go to the floor. But when you're masking, you want to go in a little. So you see my mask? I've cut the black line off because I don't want to have a gap between the pumpkin and the greenery. And you will if you leave it, because there's always going to be a little bit there. So if you want it to stamp right up to the edge, cut deep. And this had that little cute, I really did want to get that cute little vine in there. It was kind of hard to cut out, so we spent the time cutting it out. Let's make sure we get it to fit over there. Okay, so then we've masked our medium and our small. Let's get the large one and mask her up. Now, if some of the Gina K, when you peel these off, you've got a thing that helps you where it's cut. But then when you get on the edges like this, you don't have that. So you just have to use your fingernails. I like to just roll it like this. And that usually makes it come off pretty easy. Trick I learned when I was setting up name tags on all the children's desks in 3rd grade. You have the contact paper you put over it, and then you got to get the contact paper off so you can get the backing off the contact paper, and I had to roll it there on the edge. I'm sure one of my teammates showed me that. So let's get that pumpkin on there. Okay, now our pumpkins are nicely masked. So now we can bring over, we're going to get our pumpkin down here. Once again, lining that up. We know we lined it there to begin with. And because remember, this stamp that has all the greenery has her arms on it. So once again, you're going to take, this is probably where I would be better off to have drawn pencil marks on those little edges instead of having to look at it like that so closely. But no problem there. So now we're going to line our circle up where we know we need it. And I figured that out. I guess I didn't show you that once I cut out the little girl here, then I took the circle to line it up, and that's how I made the the pencil marks here. I kind of skipped that step. Kind of a critical step there. And being a circle, it can look like it's right and when it's really not. Okay, I think we're good. I'm just trying to make sure I'm not missing a step here. So I kind of showed you how you did that, showed you how you do that, because you aren't going to want to do the whirly dies if you think it is so complicated. And it does take the time because you've got your 3 different areas that you're going to be stamping and coloring. So here now I've got the pumpkin is masked. And if you checked my trash, you would see that I got in a hurry with some of my swaps and forgot to mask the pumpkin and had to start all over. So I masked all 3 of them, so I wouldn't do that to you today. Now this is really critical that we get the ink in that middle where it was having a hard time and on those edges, because we want it to come up right close to the pumpkin. And if we've done it right, because I really wanted little edges to come out, so we're going to stamp, make sure none of that ink stays on the, oh goodness, let's shake the whole earth. Okay, let's see how that looks. Ooh, I don't like when it pulls it up because then I can't go back and restamp it. I think we're good. Let's see. Da 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 da. Remove it, and what do you think? Looks pretty good. And then this should be on the top when we cut this off of the girl, the top of the girl. You're going to have little bitty bits up there to kind of pull the whole thing together. It's pretty fun. Okay, so we're going to go around. Go refill your coffee. I'm going to do the same thing on all these others, where I am going to, whoops, start with this. Line this up. She's going to be holding this pumpkin in her brown paper bag here. And then we're going to lay it down, put it in place. Seal it up here. Ink up. And again, check, make sure that your image is masked before you, if you're doing something like this where you copy over it. Most of the ones I saw online, they just stamped one image. They didn't try doing a double here, but where we had Delivering Cheer, she needed to have the pumpkin in the middle of all this, because obviously there's no face, and a pumpkin would look pretty silly on top of the hands with a headless woman. So, not a good idea. So here we are again. And I want it to get really, really close. Sometimes that ink just loves to stay on those photopolymer stamps. Okay. Looks good. Okay. Let's see. Looks awful when you have the, oh, I like it. And look, we got our little vine there, like that. Okay, so we're going to go to the next one. Line it up. with those little tiny indents that you can see. They're not going to show on your card because you're going to have it underneath the designer series paper. Okay, so now I've got the pumpkin lined up on the cutout area. Now I'm going to get the circle lined up. And I can always tell if, like that last one, we can see that her arms didn't exactly stamp on her arms, so I didn't have it exactly lined up with how it stamped the first time when we stamped our little girl, our young lady. I don't know. Okay, so we're going to ink it up. Thank you, computer, for holding up my plate there. Of course, if it pushes a button and disconnects us, we'll be dead in the water. But we're almost done here. I'm trying to get right in that middle. Of course, that makes me tip it, which then puts black here. You don't want those black edges, so grab your chamois, clean that off. So even though it takes a little while when we're making a card from start to finish, I have found, as I have watched so many YouTubes, the little hints that I get here and there from people that have stamped, you know, and what they tell me, and I try to give you some of the same tips that I've learned. But even though you could probably look at the card and say, well, I can do that, I don't need to watch her make it, it's amazing the little tips that you get. You know, where do you find masking tape? What kind of purple tape did you use? So hopefully I can give you some of those hints. And a Chucky, I haven't made a Chucky yet, but maybe someday I will. Oh, yes. Look at this little guy. That's the one I had trouble with before. And my mask is over here, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going, it won't come off. So this is what this should have looked like if I had masked it, but I forgot. So the other thing we can do, if you've got all these done and you really don't want to start all over, is you could stamp that now, cut it out, and glue it on. And we're going to try that. I haven't tried it yet, but we're going to try that just because I messed up. And let me see, little guy. I really thought I had all three of those masked. Is that weird or what? And we're going to take a little piece of white here. The problem with mounting these to your edge that is so weird. Anyway, we're done with this. Is that when you mount them, you've got to make sure they're real nice and tight, or your whirly's not going to work. So one thing he suggested, one of her suggestions was underneath your paper, your designer series paper, we're going to cut out this. Now I wish I'd done it ahead of time so I don't mess myself up here. But anyway, we're going to cut this out. We're going to cut this out. And then they suggest that you put a window sheet on the back so that if you're gluing on little dogs or kitties or whatever, that you don't have those dogs and kitties sticking to your whirly, and then your whirly won't work. So I apologize. I guess you see now how the best laid plans go astray. So we're going to see if our whirly gets stuck like they said it could. But see, I'm going to mount mine with dimensionals. So not the pumpkin, the designer series paper. And now I'm going to take this because I wound up, see, what I told you was always leave when you're cutting something out because you wind up cutting a little bit into the black. I did the same thing. Okay. Oh, I want a little more black on that edge. We're going to color it, but still. It should have a nice outline on it. Okay, so then we're going to put a touch of our Tombow glue. And I need just a teeny tiny bit up here to hold that down. Now I'm going to sit just for a minute. While I sit waiting for that to get sticky, I want to show you that what I did with the greeting, I stamped "If friends were pumpkins, I'd pick you." And I did it in early espresso on pumpkin pie. And then what I really liked was the way I like the way you can see, I loved how they had a cool outline for it. So I said, well, that's what I want too. So I put that on there. And because I don't want to really think about it, I want to do it quickly, we're going to draw. You wouldn't have to. You could just kind of do a freehand here. But I want to remember to do a little on top of the F and all that different stuff. So I take a pencil around the shape of this. They make it different shapes as they're making our stamps so that it's easy to mount them, I think. If they made them all the same size, we'd have a hard time mounting them and figuring out which went with what. So I think they make them different shapes, but I sure liked that shape. So I drew around it. And now we're going to go here. And that came down a little and up a little, and just loved how it looked. Though I'm going a little deeper because I sure don't want to have to sit and try to erase pencil marks. Then this went up, and then it went down, and then around. And you can't see a thing, can you? Sorry. Isn't that cool? So instead of a square or a rectangle or a circle, a banner would look good. But I didn't want to cover up my little girl's feet and all that pretty paper, so I thought this was the perfect way to have that. So now our glue should be nice and sticky. I find that if you give it that few seconds, it becomes like sticky, but it won't gush out when you stick something down. So there's our pumpkin. It's going to look a little different than the others, but not bad. And we could have done that with all the others too, but I just thought it would be fun to mask those things off, show you what you can do with masks, and teach you a new technique. So we've got our pumpkin here. And then what I did again, I took my little black And like I said, with those masks, a lot of times it doesn't get directly to your image. So then we can just use a little artistic freedom. And we'll probably have to do the same thing up here because we're going to want those circles to combine with our top. I'll show you that here in a minute. So we're going to add a little up here too. We want this to come straight down. Straight down. We are artists, aren't we? We just didn't know it. We thought we needed stamps to do this. We're artists. We can do this. And then I'm going to put this guy, I'm going to bring a little bit of this into here because that's the yellow, and I definitely want that yellow to come underneath that leaf. Okay, and see this one, how it came nicely. There's very little, so I must have cut my mask a little better there. I'm just increasing that a little. We may even have to do it a little more when we do our coloring here. And I normally have one all colored up for you, but I thought, you know, this is one of those times where perhaps I should take time to actually do some coloring because people have had some struggles with our blends. So I'll show you what I do, and you can see if it works for you. Wow, and that one comes nice and close because, of course, we didn't have a mask on it. Of course it does, Karen. How funny. And if I do too much here, it's not going to matter because it's going to be underneath our cutout. So we've got that done, that done. We're going to hope all works well. Let's get this computer set up here a little better. Okay, so for coloring, we're going to take our light pumpkin pie and our dark pumpkin pie for our pumpkins. So my technique for coloring is, like somebody said, Stampin' Up shows us what should be darker by their little lines that they've got. So I take and I go over these lines kind of up there around that, definitely around the bottom. Okay, and then you want to quickly get your light because what makes them blend is that they're still wet. So you've got your dark there, and then you quickly get your light one and start coloring with it. If you left it too long and it dried, you're not going to get much blending. So then you can just take your light and just give it a little more dark if you want, if it's dried too much too soon. Okay. So again, dark on the edge. Grab the light real quick because we want that too. And remember, she's holding this pumpkin in brown paper wrapping. So you're going to have that brown paper wrapping on the bottom. And again, I use those, this end, the light, the thin end does not shred. When I've done a lot of work and I'm using the thick end, it's amazing how it just seems to, I don't know what you call it, shred a little, but anyway. So see, you've got your dark and you've got your light. And I'll do my best to really hurry here. Which is probably not a good thing, huh? And then you've got your color lifter. So if you decide, you know, I really would like to have the sun coming at this pumpkin from this edge and lighten up that one area, you can do that with the color lifter. So we have quite a few number of tools that we can use. Oh, whoops, let's get up here. So my blog, once again, my blog is stampilosopher.com. And I will post this video there. And I will post, oh, see, I made a mistake, whether it be purposeful or not. I drew outside the lines just because you needed to see what a color lifter can do. And see over here, I want it to blend a little more, so I'm going to do a couple little more layers here. Okay, so you see I cut outside the lines. So we have a white, it's called a color lifter. And I've replaced mine once, so obviously I do this more often than I should. So now I'm going to take that ink and I want to push it back into the pumpkin. I can recolor the pumpkin, but I don't want that out on the outside where it's supposed to be a brown paper bag or brown wrapping paper. So I just go like this, get that orange on the inside, and usually it takes more than once. So we're going to leave that, and we're going to grab, we'll have to come back and color the orange. And let's say that I wanted a little bit of light right here. See how I can just remove color there and get a little bit of light on there. You know what I could have done is I could have zoomed up on this. I'm sorry. It's one of these here. Let's zoom just a little closer because now you're unable to see all that I'm doing. Okay, so I want to do the bronze. The bronze is another that comes in a single, but I have found that I love it. My gingerbread man, oh, he had to have this bronze that we did last year. It's just a beautiful brown. It's not like cinnamon cider that has red in it. It's darker than soft suede, and yet such a pretty brown. I really like it. So we're going to use it for here. Because once you pick those pumpkins, those turn pretty brown pretty fast. I see some areas I'm going to add a little more black to bring it up a little closer to the pumpkin. Okay, so that's our brown there. Then I'm going to use Dark Soft Succulent, our new in color, to do these leaves, because I'm going to use Shaded Spruce and Old Olive. Shaded Spruce for the greenery that looks kind of like, well, spruce boughs, and Old Olive for the other greenery. And then we have some red greenery. And then when you've got these little bitty areas, just barely tap. Just barely tap. Don't even hardly touch it. And voila, we get a vine. Okay, and then this one has your big one has a vine here. So since we're going to just barely tap, 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 as if we're just putting little dots in. And then we have our leaf. And I just find, whether I do dark or light, that if I do those outside edges first, then I can go a little quicker by doing the outside first, and then I'm not worrying about getting into something else with the inside. Okay, so those are the leaves. And now we're going to go back. This first layer has dried. So we're going to go back, make sure that that is nice and clean, and push. Remember, when we push, you can't pull back or you're pulling the orange back onto it, which it looks like I did on the last one. So we want to push that orange up back into there and not have it on the outside. Now I'm just going to take this on that outside. I think the most I've ever done is 4 times, but we'll do 3 here, because I like to show you that if you get outside the lines, see right now it looks like we've got a gray, but that gray is going to dry. And then we're going to recolor the orange, and we won't have a line outside the lines. Now mostly we would have done that with our light crumb cake, because we're going to have the little girl's, what do we call her? A little girl, young lady who's gone to get a beautiful gift for someone. Okay, so I had it somewhere that I wanted a more little black. I wanted a little black on this edge, because that's going to show. This isn't going to show, and it's going to be wrapped up in that paper. Oh, it seems there was something here. Oh, here. We had our leaf that we were doing, and yet we didn't have that coming down. And there's a teensy tiny bit of orange right in there between the leaf. Okay, so now let's go on to our greenery. And again, I'm going to use Light Mango Melody for these outer parts. And it's amazing. When I first did this, I'm going, oh no, this isn't going to look good. Look at all that black. It's way too black, but it's amazing. You get it colored and it just really looks nice. So the outer edges are like a shaft of wheat. So we're going to do those in yellow. And then we're going to get our light shaded spruce to do the spruce boughs. And the spruce bough is the second one over, in my judgment. And basically, I am just going over the black, and it's getting, in between the black. And then this looks like a spruce brow, so we're going to go in here. And then I'm going to do a couple old olives, and then I'm going to do 2 spruce brows here. And then the old olive, the light old olive. Just quickly, so see, it's really not taking near. You probably looked at that and said, oh my gosh, I could never want to color that much, but see how fast this is actually going? So you've got 2 green in here. And then, well, let's just add a red right quick while we're there. So here we've got this lovely red branch of something. I have no idea what this would be. Some kind of a berry. Maybe chokecherries? Do they get that dark red? And could you pick a chokecherry branch like that and make a bouquet? Don't know. But I love little red berries. And I love how it's the effect that it had with the rest of them. What do you think? So let's go ahead and just do our reds right quick. Just do all of them. So we can see how long does it really take to make a card. Somebody asked me, and it's like, I don't know. It's the design takes a lot of time to figure out what you want to do. Once you've done 1 or 7 or 8, then it's much, much easier. Unless, of course, you forget to mask 1 or 2 or 3, then it's not so good. But I think we will be okay. We'll see. I still prefer... You can't tell much difference between the stamped one, but hopefully we won't have problems with it turning, but I don't think so. So what do you think? Can you see now how we've taken away that outer edge? I'm not going to have to do a 3rd time. So we're going to go back to our light pumpkin pie and be a little slower this time. And color over. Of course, that's our sunshine coming in there, giving it a little different look. And there's our sunshine on him. I'm going to make it just a little smaller. I don't think it needs to be that big. But because I've done a 2nd layer on that, we're going to do a 2nd layer on this. But I want to leave that little bit of light right there in the middle. Kind of like what we do with balloons. We've done that before. Okay, so quickly, let's see. We've got, well, let's do the shaded spruce. Because we've got a shaded spruce. And then we've got a red, then we've got a shaded spruce here. Then we've got two old olives. Then we're going back to our spruce boughs. Okay, so spruce bough. Spruce bough. Spruce bough. Old olive, 2 spruce boughs. Better keep talking to myself. Spruce bough, spruce bough. Now we have an old olive. Spruce bough, spruce bough. Okay. And old olive. Oh dear, was I completely out of the camera there? I apologize. Spruce bough. And what's nice is, you know, I can go in and I can edit this and I can fast forward past the coloring for you. But since I have watched numerous people coloring and gotten some fun hints, I thought, you know, maybe I should do that once in a while. And the beautiful thing is with a video, you can fast forward past this as fast as you want and get to the next step. So ladies and gentlemen, we are colored. I've got a couple little areas I want to do a little more on. Looks like I cut the orange on this guy. A little more. Okay. And now let's go to this. And I'm going to go out to the I'm going to go out to the cut and emboss machine. I'm going to place this right there, and I'm going to cut it out. Now this, remember, is the, oh, let me zoom back out a little. Well, let's not go that far. So this is that piece that you cut out with the die from the set that gives you that little hole. That little hole is what we need right now. And mine, I've done pretty much straight up and down. Many people, you can go to the corner, you can go wherever, but I've done mine pretty much a straight up and down. So I'm going to take my purple tape, highlighter tape, and I'm going to tape that down, and I'm going to cut it. And I'll probably, it'll look like I've got an earthquake going on. Okay, so with our cutting, we've got plate number 1, plate number 2, cutting plate number 3. Then we place this down and put plate number 3 on top. Another plate number 3 on top. So that's my cutting sandwich, we call it. You'll get used to all these terms as you stamp with me. You'll get used to our sandwich and our cut and emboss machine. I still have a tendency to call it a Big Shot because that's what we used to call the one they sold in the past. So now what we've got is we have got this done, and now we need this. And we're going to use our circle here to help us. So our circle, let's take that medium one. Look, you can't even see the orange. Love it. Sometimes, I don't know what I've done, then I do see the orange. And then I try to get rid of it, and I smear the black. But this time the black didn't smear, so we're not sure why sometimes that happens. So this is where we've got the 2 holes together. Okay. And then we want our little girl. I need my Stamparatus back because we had her all nicely lined up with the circle. I have a club that meets every other month on the second Tuesday at 9:30. Guests are welcome for a $5 fee. And if you'd like to come join us and make cards, give me a shout out at stampilosopher@gmail.com, and I can give you more details on that. So here's where our circle is, and here's this. Now I had a tendency when I was mounting my little girl to not get her straight right here. So I had to be really extra super careful. So now what I want to do is I want to put the little girl, here, let's do it this way. Let's put the little girl down. And then the circle where it belongs. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to poke a little hole with our clicker, picker, poker, upper. I need to know where to punch that out. But I didn't want to do that. I forgot. We don't have our little, we are not doing what most of them do. We've got that circle, but we're going to, I don't know what I was thinking. But anyway, that circle would go on top of here. And that should have been just a pencil mark, not a poke tool. It should have just been a pencil mark to show me where the little girl needed to do. And then we need to line her up straight. Put the circle right there. line her up straight. We want her really straight. See, that was the problem I had before. The circle is right on the top of her. And then we want this just a little bit there. Okay, got it straight. Take our purple tape. Our hole is still lined up. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to go back, and now we're going to go back with our die and put circle on top of circle, which is on top of the circle that I should have marked with a pencil, but we didn't. So it's a little bit of a problem, but I think when we color it, we'll be okay. So hopefully you've seen that we do know that everything is not always going to work perfect, and we have to do workarounds. So we've cut out that, and now we've kept her nice and straight. Okay, so now we need to glue her onto here. Hopefully. Yes, she's straight. A little closer to this edge than I wanted to be, but when we glue her down, you won't notice that. So we're going to make sure we keep that edge nice and tight there. We're going to use a little of our glue. We're going to give it a minute to become nice and sticky. So remember, when you do this, look at both sides of that. I did not look at both sides of that. And she's going to go straight down on here. We know exactly where she needs to go because we've cut her out in exact and have it nice and straight here. That was the problem I had. And see, that's a little close, but it's going to work. Okay, now I have to show you. We've got our little girls there. And do you see how cool that is? Oh, let me zoom you up. That now we're going to just color our red here for our red berries. And I just liked how it made the whole thing look as one, and to have, so here's our shaded spruce coming here. And then, so is that cool? So you've got your red on red. Now some of them I've had to draw a little extra in there because it was farther away than I expected. And then here is our old olive. So we had two old olives here. What did we have next? We had old olive. Old olive. This is old olive again. So we've got old olive here that my others didn't have it coming out on that side. So you've got your old olive there. Like that. And then shaded spruce is those two little Two little things here of shaded spruce. And voila, now the part you've probably been waiting for. How did you color that girl? My favorite part. Now you could have done this before you mounted it. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't tear that anymore over there. But now you have these cute, and again, I'm going to zoom up because you've got to see this. This is too cool. We're going to take our Memento Black again. And I put the dots up at the top. I don't know that it matters either way. This is her leggings. It's so fun. And because it is photopolymer, we can see through. I don't think I have much black on there. To see exactly where her legs are, exactly where her boots are. Is that the coolest thing? Love that. And then the other one is, and let's get our early espresso here. I mean, this is the coolest thing to have all these stamps to make our artwork. Super, super cool. So I'm going to get that down where it's below her boot and beside her boot. You can't even tell it's brown, can you? Against the black. I was hoping it'd look more like that, but it doesn't. So then I'm going to come over here and get right on her boot. It's obviously not going to show. And there you have the ground. And then I took the light soft suede. I thought that might be close to that color, and I just did over these in a light soft suede. Maybe she's got a little mud there on her boot. I don't know. She wears boots. It must have been rainy, right? Actually, I got that a little too close. So we're going to take our black and go over it like that. We don't want mud on her boots. Okay, so then I played around with different colors for her gloves, and I found that my favorite was light cinnamon cider for gloves because she's holding the brown paper. And see, I can color in where I poked that hole, but I really should have put a pencil mark and then erased it. But it'll look fine. Only you and I know, right? Do I need it darker? I guess we could put something on it. Maybe she just tore her glove. Who knows? Anyway, then my favorite on the coat was the light misty moonlight. And remember, she's got this brown paper. And I love this color. Do you know this color goes away with the new catalog next June? It's one of our in colors. And it's already run a year, so now we're on the second year for it. And then it goes away. So if they ever do a color revamp, I hope they bring this as a permanent color. It's not purple, it's not blue, it's purpley blue, I guess. I don't know, I just love it. And this now, I'm not doing the dark and light. With her coat that I found If I just did an extra layer where I wanted it a little darker, I got the perfect shading that I wanted. Now we're going to do red over top of this for her scarf, but it still shows on top of the light misty moonlight. And they did a color revamp, gosh, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago? And they did bring back like Flirty Flamingo that we absolutely loved, that was an in color. And they made it a permanent color. So we liked that. And remember, your color dries with these. These are alcohol markers.